Welcome, everybody, to tonight's wonderful interview of the week. We have a really good one in store tonight. We have Marilyn Suttle, who specializes in creating subtle shifts. I like that. In the way people think and they act, and so they can produce massive results. And she's got a lot of great examples of how she's created massive results in other people and other companies. She also has 3 books that are out. We're going to find out who Gladys is. Who's Gladys? And we're going to talk about her latest book, which is Color Their World, and what that's all about. So without further ado, welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
There, I hit all the right buttons too. It was really good.
Got a good start on here.
So for those that don't know, I gave you a little brief intro because I was like, you tell your story way better than I do. For those that don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're at and what part of the country and what you do?
Sure. So I'm in Michigan, where it is sunny 87 degrees, something like that right now outside. And I'm in a nice air-conditioned office, so I'm okay here. And for those of you who have been part of the Train the Trainer world like you have, Dave, I'm a past Train the Trainer person. I go out and help train the trainers, and I was there just a few months back with the 2018 group, and absolutely love helping people reach their goals, like whether it's to become that amazing speaker they want to be, or whether it's with a company who wants a culture of service excellence. I'm a maximizer, so I love to see that growth. And I put myself in uncomfortable situations so I can grow, from writing books to stepping on stages to coaching executives, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, that's Jack Canfield. So Jack Canfield's Train the Trainer. So you'll be back there in September.
I'm actually not going to be there in September. No, I did the earlier one, but I can't make it for that. I've got another commitment that clashed. So
oh no! For those that loved you during the first one, they're going to be like, "Oh, where's Marilyn?"
I will miss them.
So tell us about. Oh, let's go step by step. So who is Gladys?
Gladys. Okay, so here we go. This was the first book that we did. Who's your Gladys? And Gladys is the person, we're trying to humanize people that we find difficult to be with. So Gladys is your challenging customer, the one that just hits your nerves, or it could even be your challenging boss or coworker. It's that person in your work life that causes you to have to exert more of yourself to do well. But the good news is when you're really good with Gladys, you're great with everybody. So she sharpens your saw. She helps you become outstanding at what you do. And we went through, oh my gosh, 10 different companies. Singapore Airlines, for example. I got to dive into Singapore Airlines and find out how they do this amazing job where they can charge 20% more for a ticket and get full flights all the time. And it's not like some of the stories we hear about taking people forcibly off the plane and these horror stories we hear in the US sometimes. They really have such an amazing culture of excellence. And so being able to dive in and get all their secrets and share them in the book was great.
That is awesome. How did you finagle your way into it?
Asked. I use the principles of success that we learned from Jack, right? As a matter of fact, Jack Canfield's company is, I think, chapter 2 in the book. I was able to dive in there too.
Wow.
And just pull out the little things. Like anybody who's a speaker who's watching right now, how you're giving a presentation and then all of a sudden cell phone goes off right in the middle of your story and just kind of kills it. So Jack has a great way of handling that, which I've adapted, which is to have a jar. You remember this, right? So you have a jar and say, it's going to be $20 if your cell phone goes off. I call that tough love. But here's the good part of it is it goes to a really great cause. And so it gets to the point where everybody wants the phones to go off instead of getting mad by it because, you're doing good if it happens. But the truth is the phone goes off a lot less because of it.
Yeah.
So,
So you had who's Gladys? So you explained all of that within that book,
right.
right? And then
Well,
did you use that for workshops? Did you
I
build
did.
workshops around that?
So that became, because we had 10 case studies from 10 different companies,
Wow.
finding out what all different industries do that anybody can do. And then that got turned into an online course, the Customer Service Roadmap,
Ah,
which is my passive income stream. For those of you who are speakers, you know that you need multiple streams, and having that online course makes it very easy for people who don't have time to get everybody off the
mhm.
floor. They could do it at their own pace. So have that handled, and then of course keynotes and trainings and consulting on that topic,
Wow.
infiltrating the way you think more than just the skill set, because you've got to have the mindset or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not just customer service skills. It's like dealing, like you said, a coworker, your boss, any of those people that just make you cringe
absolutely, because you know what
coming
happens
in.
inside of a team or on the inside of a company affects the customer's experience. Even if you're
Mhm.
not customer facing, if you've got a team where there's no trust, there's going to be delays. People aren't going to easily share and collaborate and find solutions. So the customers are going to suffer. So ultimately, everything affects the customer. But you know, you have to wake up in the morning and spend so much of your life with these people, and
Yeah.
if they're making you crazy, you're
You're
hurting your
dreading
own.
going to work.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
And
don't, it's not happy. It's not a happy situation for you.
no, and
So
well,
what's some of the ways that you have people or you teach people how to deal with that?
so I spent 6 months with an automotive company working with their leadership team, and one of the really simple, you know, some of these things are so simple, but we just don't take
Mhm.
the time clarifying definitions. Like this, is so simple. What does it mean to be responsive? Well, you know, everybody says, you know, an important part of this job is that we're really responsive to each other, to the team, to our bosses, to the other departments, to our customers. Well, one person thinks responsive is I'll get back to you within half an hour, while another person thinks, well, within 24 hours. Well, that's a completely different definition. And so
Yeah.
people are confused and people get mad at each other, not knowing they're mad at each other because they simply don't function from the same set of definitions. So
Mhm.
simple things like that. It's a subtle shift, you know, in the way you look at what we all know we're supposed to do. You know,
Yeah.
be on time. Well, what does on time really mean? You know, I was working with a global team, and it's like, depending on the culture, if a meeting starts at 1 o'clock and you're there at 1 o'clock, you're late.
Right.
Where in another culture, it's like people will be coming in around 10:15 after, and that's fine. You know, so we have to
Yeah.
clarify so that there's no confusion.
Well, and even within the United States itself, it's
Oh,
regional. I
right.
mean,
And then
we're from the Midwest. We're usually
right,
being on time is 15 minutes early, right?
absolutely. I'm in the Midwest, and that's so true. But when I go to
That's
California, it's a little more relaxed, you know.
yeah.
And so
Down south, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh, they roll in about 8. And I'm
the,
generalizing. It's not everyone, but
but
it is kind of regional.
it's more than even regional. It's even if you think about when you were an elementary school kid, right? Every
Mhm.
principal of every school had a personality that kind of became the culture of the whole school. So the principal dictated the culture of the classrooms and the way things were run. It's true with leadership in any company, there's a culture. And
Mhm.
we have a thing called the way things are done, the way things are supposed to be done. And we have it written up, and it's a vision and a mission, and it all looks really good on paper. And people look at it and go, yeah, right. You know,
Right.
that's not what's really happening. So to
Nope.
get congruence means to really get people together and create accountability to it and create commitment, ownership to it, all of those kind of things.
Yeah. And then what's your suggestion to get a buy-in? I mean, does everybody sign a sheet that they bought into this, or
Well, you know,
what's your
sometimes they
suggestion on that?
put a gun to their head and they'll sign the sheet. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. It's more
Right.
like, you know, I'll give you an example. I worked with a company for a year where we created a customer service model, which was going to be their behaviors and how
Hmm.
they were going to handle every point of contact with the customers have. And I was not about to have them dictate that to the staff because the staff would rebel. They'd know
Sure.
better. That mean, people, when you're working in a job, you know things that management doesn't know, or that a person in another building doesn't know.
Yeah.
So what I did is I created a series of what do you call them? Focus groups, small focus groups. And I would, document, we would document, what do you see as working well? What needs improvement? How would you improve it? Because it's not enough to say what's wrong. People will just go on and on complaining.
Right.
What are your solutions? And now when they had that, they're putting their solutions out, then that becomes part of the culture because they created it. And what you create, you own. So I think it's very important to not only involve everybody, create a culture that works and hold everybody accountable to it, but to celebrate it, to celebrate what's working. And at the end of the year,
you get the buy-in by action. So they're part of the solution. So then they buy into the solution.
And not only that, but peer-to-peer learning and accountability, where you train, like if I'm working with nurses, to train the nurses to train their other nurses, to train the janitor to train the other janitors, because you're going to pay much more attention to a peer that believes in the culture than you are to some person you never see but once a year who comes in and tells you to do something a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
That
HR person. I love HR people, by the way.
Oh, yeah. You too.
Yeah. But they're the ones that usually show up once a year to give you a review, or a supervisor gives you a review or something, or.
Right. Yeah. And when the review, let's say that you get, and this is one of the things, I do when we do customer service models, is that the staff kind of creates that review. They have a say in what that review is. So now you have a document that you could use when you hire, that you could use when you review, that they helped to put into place. So they're going to be more likely to, follow through. And it's true in a family too. It's so true when you have kids, and I used to have family meetings, and I remember, do you have kids, Dave?
I did. I have inherited children.
Okay.
I did not have any of my own, and now that Emma and I are together, now I inherited her children and grandchildren.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, when, I had two boys, and they were about 2.5 years apart, and they would fight over toys all the time. One would get up, the other one would grab that toy, and then there'd be a huge fight. So we'd have these Sunday family meetings, and I asked them to come up with a solution for this toy fighting thing. And they came up with the idea that they could put a chair, if they put a toy under their dining room chair, then that was in the safe zone. The other one could not take it. And so they could have up to 3 toys, because they didn't want this getting ridiculous. So, but
like
I'm
the chair's wobbling.
For years, I had toys under those chairs, but
that was their,
it was their solution. And so it works from the home to the business to, I think to the world, it's that respectful communication that involves each other that really makes a difference.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's a great example too, because they came up with a solution. So they automatically bought into the solution because they came up with it.
Right.
It wasn't you dictating, saying, no, stop fighting, or stop, fighting over a toy and all that stuff. But yeah.
Right. And I would even do that with, sometimes they would fight, and I would put them each on a couch, and I'd say, you could both stay on the couch until you both let each other up. Until you both say you can both get up, you both have to stay there. And they'd be so mad. And you'd think right away they would let each other up, but they wouldn't. And they'd be sitting there. But when they calmed down and they finally let each other up, they were like best friends, because they worked together, collaborated to get off those darn couches.
Were they twins?
No, about 2.5, 3 years apart.
Just within the range, sure. Yeah.
But made just enough time to have some tussle around with. But anyway, so that finding peaceful solutions to create well-being in the home or in the office, and definitely with customers, because customers are more in control of the dollars they spend than ever. They have multiple channels, they have multiple ways of buying. They can go on the internet and find a competitor who does exactly what you do at any number of prices. So it becomes a relationship thing that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. It's an old adage, but it's so true. If I trust you, if somebody recommends you to me that I know, that's even more weight. Yeah, I do check Yelp before I go to a restaurant, things like that. It's a customer-led world, so we have to learn to communicate better than we have ever had to before.
Yeah, and everything from the top down is going to build that relationship with that customer, because we're selling. I don't care what you do, you're affecting a sale of a product that's driving your company. The
sale of a product, an idea.
Yeah. So every level of customer service, every level of getting along with your fellow employees, with your staff, all that affects the bottom line that way. Right.
And, you and I both know Dr. Deb Daniela. I'm a certified RIM facilitator, which is something that I infiltrate into some of my coaching and speaking. And I had a situation with a business owner who he just had an issue with millennials. And, sometimes my older clients will have an issue with the younger ones. And I think part of it is because in that generation, we had to pay our dues in a different way than today. It's a different world today. So there's some frustrations, but he was being harsh with this millennial. And millennial was great in a lot of ways. He just had so much enthusiasm, and it was being squashed. So I asked him to just imagine that he was sitting in their seat, looking out through their eyes back at him. After, think of the conversation you want to have with this employee. Now, put your awareness in that employee. Look out through his eyes back at you. How is he feeling? How is he responding? Are you inspiring him to change or to grow, or are you beating him down? How does he feel? And he goes, oh my gosh, wow, that was an eye opener. Because, he was demotivating, the very opposite of what he really wanted to do. So I think that in whatever field we're in, constantly looking to grow and learn new skill sets to add in, it's really worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think in that example too, they, I don't know how, I'm 54 years old. I remember the saying of it was the generation gap, right? You always had a generation gap. Everybody had a generation. And now it's like now we've gotten to the point where we want to blame someone else. We want to blame a whole sector like millennials and whatever, group that it is. And I totally go by the aspect of it's a personality. It's not a group of people. It's not like all the 20-somethings are going, oh, we're going to be angst and we're going to do whatever that is, or we're going to be slouches and sleep on the couch instead of doing things. It's going to be, it's a personality trait.
Right. There's personalities which are all different among all ages. But then we have what we do have generationally is a set of experiences.
Yes.
The state of the economy as they were growing up, the state of the, just the way families were run, what they were exposed to. And that's different generation to generation. The computer explosion, the internet explosion is a different set of experiences. I'll tell you, I had a friend who had a 3-year-old who went up to a magazine and went like this because he was trying to expand the picture. Is it so?
I've done it with my monitor. Because I'm used to your phone, you're used to your tablets, and you do it, and you're like, oh yeah, it's not a touchscreen.
Right. So there's validity in that. There's a different set of experiences, but we're all people. We're all humans. We all have the same and different. As a matter of fact, one of the chapters in the Who's Your Gladys book talks about the 4 styles, the 4 customer styles that, and that you need to, rather than get angry with the person who knows what they want and want it this way and they want it now. It's like, oh, that's a direct personality. They need speed. They want to make the decision and move forward. If you're analytical and you like to cross every T and dot every I, you're going to have to soothe yourself and go faster with them.
Yeah.
If you send them a long email that's 10 paragraphs long, they're not going to read it.
Right.
So, being able to adapt to other people's style,
Yep.
no matter what their age, is really important.
Yep. And ask those questions to get to that point, like to understand where they're at. Because I know I've dealt with, I always label them as the engineer brain, where they want everything on an Excel spreadsheet. They want everything side by side. They want and they want to have a comparative, and they want it articulated out. You know, those used to drive me crazy, but they only drove me crazy because I didn't understand them.
Exactly. And once you understand them, then it makes a world of difference. It really does, because then you can have some compassion. You know, I was once doing a workshop, and one of the types is the expressive type. They like to have fun while they work. And the man, he said, I never had a thought I haven't said out loud. And, you know, it's so a person who is very quiet and buttoned up might find that person to be, you know, you're wasting my time, you talk too much. But the truth is, if you look at the positive of that, they're very gregarious, they're fun, they create engagement, and they get their work done. They just have a different way of doing it. So it's all about self-soothing. I think that's really one of the keys, to self-soothe whenever you're triggered by somebody, and look inside. Like, what about me makes me feel this way? I know you had Kathleen Seeley on one of your shows, and she does work on values. And I think that that's a real key, is that if I value, you know, let's say I really value boundaries and not being a humble, you know, those things. I really value people who kind of are self-sufficient. And then here you're looking at somebody who just asks for what they want. You might get triggered at a moment thinking, oh, they're asking too much. Well, you can say no. It's like, recognize that it's you and your value that's being triggered, not that there's something wrong with them. Like, take the time to do that investigation. Ask yourself those questions. I'm going to turn around and see if I have it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have it, but I'm going to look. I think I do. Okay. I do not, but I can tell you about it. So I'm going to actually, can we do a little prop here? So if you have something like, let me see if I could do it real fast. Yep, I can, because I think visuals are really helpful. Give me 1 second for your patience.
If we could do a full shot, I could tap dance or something a little bit.
There we go.
Here, I'll just dance in my chair. A little entertainment. There you go.
S and R.
Yeah.
Okay, so the situation happens and you respond. So somebody's late coming to a meeting and your response is, I'm frustrated. A customer is yelling at you. Your response is, oh, I'm being put upon. This is such an awful job. Between the situation and your response is da, 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 da. Can you see the word?
Belief.
Belief. You have a hidden belief that's running the show. So if your belief is people should never be late, then you might not stop to ask, did something happen? Oh yeah, my car, you know, whatever situation happened. I had a meeting with the boss. I couldn't.
Got a flat tire.
Did I get my paper? We're not looking for excuses, but there might be a genuine reason. And if you flare, it means that you've already made the assumption before you found out if it was true.
And I'm going to guess that everybody's made that mistake at least once in their life. Because I know I can admit that I have.
Oh, absolutely.
You've gone, what, you know, what, oh, you big bozo or whatever. You know, it's like you lash out at them and then they go, okay, I just got back from the hospital and this happened, or my mother just passed away, or so, and you're just like, I got to leave the room. I'm so embarrassed at this point.
And you never know. I had somebody, I was doing 2 days of training with university bookstore staff. It was 10 different bookstores all came together for a retreat. And one woman, she said she had dealt with this student who was being so disrespectful, so it was triggering her. She's like, you know, he should be nicer. He should be smiling at me. He should be appreciating me. You know, that was going on internally. But she challenged the belief and said, well, I don't know what's going on for him. So she stayed polite and she helped him, and she was actually really kind, and he smiled at the end of it. Well, the following week he committed suicide. And she thought, oh my gosh, I may have been the last person who was nice to this kid. And I'm so glad that I gave him that kindness, because I didn't know what was going on for him. None of us knows what's going on for somebody.
You don't
So
know.
challenging the belief is so important.
Yeah.
And then, and you can even, you start asking the question, so I'm telling myself that you're late because you weren't taking the meeting seriously, but what is it like for you? Like, simply asking that kind of question will open the door to discovering if there's an issue and finding a solution, and then making an agreement. All those pieces come together to create a good well-being in the workplace.
And those are all justifiable questions, and you do them like in that situation. If there's a group of people and they're late to the meeting, it's like, that's something like, hey, can you stay after? I want to just chat with you. It's like, that's a back room kind of discussion, not to embarrass them in front of everyone.
Right.
On that aspect.
Well, and honestly, when you do that, when you embarrass them in front of everyone, who you're really embarrassing is yourself, because everybody's looking and going,
right back at you.
Somebody tough and not very with it today. This is not going to be a person who's going to create harmony and hard work and engagement. Man, engagement is critical.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially if you're working with a team, they want to know that you have compassion towards them.
Oh yeah. I think that is, and you can be you could have boundaries, you could have high expectations and compassion. And it's a really good combination, because when you hold, people want to grow. They want to be seen as capable, and you're good people. I was interviewing Isco is in the book, and the boss, he was saying that good people want to work with other good people, because then it's a spiral of success. But poor workers like to work with other poor workers because they have a place to hide, so it becomes where, if you want to keep really engaged, high quality employees, you have to grow yourself as a leader to be that person who inspires. Like, that's not just a lip service word. It really makes the difference in how people approach the jobs. Yeah.
Well, that's, you're setting a precedent.
Right. And you're modeling it.
Exactly.
You're a mentor instead of a chore mentor. As you people up.
Because then you give them something to aspire to.
Exactly. But saying that is harder than doing that. And many times people do a good job, so they get promoted up, and then they get promoted into a management position, but they don't have the experience, the leadership experience. And when they're faced with conflict, they either go head in sand because they don't want to deal with it, this is too uncomfortable, or they go ballistic, which causes all kinds of damage. And so at every level, you need to keep growing. You need to get the training you need, get the coaching you need, create a circle of people who support you, whether it's a mastermind group, a book club. Leadership book club is great. People share their ideas. We did a Music Gladys book club, which was great fun, because we get to hear examples of everybody putting it into place and bringing it back. I love that. You do too. You love that kind of stuff. Oh
yeah.
People coming back with great examples of how they put it in place. That's nothing lights me up more than seeing that happen.
Yeah. So you have and then does the second book reinforce the first one?
Yeah. So the second book is a boot camp in a book. It's a 10-week course, a weekly course, week 1, 2, 3, 4, where you could take it and in 10 to 15 minutes, take your team and do an activity that reinforces the culture, that reinforces engagement, that reinforces customer service, so that you don't have to think. You're busy. Leaders are busy, and there's so many responsibilities, and they're so tied to numbers. So this book, you grab, it's called Taming Gladys, the Busy Leader's Guide. You grab it, start the meeting with a 10-minute activity, and now everybody's got that little shot of inspiration. get to share. I think one of the biggest things you could do to grow a team is to have a reinforcement conversation where everybody shares 2 minutes what they did well that week on a particular topic. Because now they know what's coming for the next week. They're going to make sure they have a good example. And then they get to hear their peers. They get to be proud of themselves to share in front of their supervisor. You know, it's just people like to celebrate what they do well.
Yeah. So similar to like the beginning of like a mastermind group.
Yeah, it's like a
like what's new and good.
Right. Yeah. I like to call it a reinforcement conversation, but absolutely not even, it could be new or good, but I like to keep it on a topic that they know is coming so that throughout the week, you're like, oh, we're going to be talking about service recovery. Cool. I'm in a situation right now where I could slide and just tell them how it's going to be, or go that extra mile and make a really nice example.
So is that something that can a corporation or a company or a person hire, let's go corporation and company, do they hire you first to come in and kind of train them on this, and then they can utilize that as a guide? Or is it did you build that as more of a do-it-yourself thing where it's like they can utilize that as a guide for training their team?
Well, the book is to do it yourself, but what I do is I'll go in and maybe I'll do a keynote, or maybe I'll come in and I'll do a monthly training with leadership, or a full day training with the staff. And then I don't want to just go away and be gone. I want to let it live beyond me. And one way to do that is to either offer the reinforcement calls where I'm on that call supporting it while they're doing the work, or I might do the first 5 minutes to remind them of the skill, and then have the boss go through and talk to each person, let them share, or give them some other form of ongoing support, whether it's surveys so that they can keep seeing how things are going. But people need to have attention, and when you take your attention off of it, it reverts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. You just go back to your old ways.
It's the way our brains were wired to keep things the same, to keep safe, to not change, that if we feel fear, or back when we were in the caveman days, if we felt fear, we were probably in mortal danger. Today, if we feel fear, it might be because we're having a meeting with somebody important, and it's like, or
it could just be a fantasy that's in our mind.
Exactly, but it's just, we feel the same way inside. So the question I ask myself is this fear leading to danger or to growth?
Yeah.
As soon as you realize, oh, this is a growth fear, then it's your green light to go.
Yeah. In a past life, I had a retail store that I owned, and I always loved to do the Marilyn, I need to talk to you in the back room. And I did that intentionally, and I'd be like, you did a really great job with that customer. You really did it. And I did it. And it would be both things. So it's like, if there was something wrong, it would be that, but it would be like, it was the same face. It was the same gesture. You had to talk to you in the back room or before their shift or something. And so it relieved the whole thing of, oh my gosh, I'm going to get yelled at. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get yelled at. Because it was like, okay, this could be good or bad. I'm not quite sure. Did I do anything bad? Did I do anything good? I might have done something good because I don't remember the bad thing,
Good,
and so it was a good thing for them, because it ended up being more good than bad that you ever had to talk to them about, because you reinforced the good things. And it was, so it was a really good thing that way. But it's like, I intentionally relieved that dreaded tension that could be there. As
you're saying that, I'm remembering I had 36 scientists at a science research lab that I was working with over an 8-week period. And we were talking about how to give positive acknowledgement. Mm-hmm. And we had them practice it. They were supposed to come back and share how they did. And one of the people in that workshop said, this is hard because you really have to pay attention to what people are doing. It's like, yeah, you do. I think sometimes you're visioned only on ourselves and what we're doing. But to take a moment and really see and acknowledge what your fellow workers are doing, what your team members are doing, it makes such a positive impact, and it creates connection and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every so often give them a high five.
Right. Yeah.
You know, acknowledge it. That's the one of the fallouts of larger corporations, and they're changing over the years. Everything's gotten a little bit better in a lot of the successful companies. Is that that attitude of just waiting? You know, it has to be an extreme thing, a big sale or something. It's like, you know, high five them on the little sales.
Right.
Then they're like, oh, a sale, good, okay. They get in that pattern of I want more, and what you think about comes about. So it's like, ooh, good, I did great on that little sale. I'm going to do good. I'm going to do more sales, and then pretty soon you got a big sale.
Exactly. It's like every success is a positive step forward. And there's a saying with customer service that it's not, if you change one big thing, it's not going to be as effective as if you change 1,000 little things. Like, one tiny little thing. Like if you think in terms of what your eyes see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, are you walking into a location that has a dirty parking lot, or when you go to the website, is it impossible to find your phone number? Those visuals, go through those points of contact that your customer has, and how are they experiencing it?
Yeah. The next time you go into a restaurant, just walk right past them and go right into the bathroom and check it out.
Yeah, that tells you a lot.
I do that, and it's like, oh, we don't want to eat here.
Right. Oh,
yes. Hey, I love this.
Yeah. No, there's a lot to be said about that, for sure.
That's why McDonald's drive-through is always busy.
Yep.
Just saying. Yeah. So, and then, okay, let's go to the third book.
Oh, okay. Let me grab that.
Third book just came out.
Yes.
Not that long ago.
Right.
Yeah. Color Their World. That's a coloring book, and it has a lot of no, that's not it.
Yeah, it is. It's a coloring book to create customer loyalty.
Yeah, but tell them about it.
It's very.
It's made it like it's a coloring book.
It is. It gives you thought starters. You know, Nathaniel Brandon started the idea of thought starters, and he was a psychologist who realized that when you finish that sentence, you would discover things you wouldn't have otherwise discovered about yourself, other people. It really anchors the learning. And so one way I stay calm under pressure is one of the pages. And you start to think, well, what is, sometimes you do things that work well, but you don't think about it. And then when you really answer that question, it's like, oh, that's a skill. And if you share it with your team, you start to learn what other people do. Here's another page. I make a good first impression by.
And you can do things like a company can take this, and this could be like a break time thing.
Absolutely. It could be a number of
if all of a sudden, I got all these colored pencils, I brought it, and everybody meets together, and it's like, you know what, we're going to just take a 15-minute or a half-hour break or whatever, we're going to just color.
Exactly. And so no pressure to answer the questions, but as you're coloring, you're thinking about the question, and like this one, someone who inspires me to do my best is, and then you're thinking about all of these wonderful people that have inspired you. And then if you have them, you take 5 minutes and share at your table your answer. Now you're learning, you're peer-to-peer growing, and
while you're coloring, so it's like it just comes automatic. The stories come out, and you're not on pressure of like telling a story in front of a crowd or something.
Exactly. It lowers the pressure.
Yeah.
It lowers the tension. And when you're less stressed, you raise resilience. You raise your creativity. So there's all kinds of research around coloring. One thing, though, I made sure to do is not to have too much coloring on a page, because that turns into stress again. When it's tedious to get a repage. So you could do any of these pages within 15 minutes or so.
And never have the color black on the table for them to color with, because otherwise the goth person is just going to color it all in black, and you're going to be like, whoa. Wednesday Addams is at our table. No.
Right. Well,
so do you suggest like they do that, and then they like as just a bonding aspect to it, and then maybe they put them all on a wall, or they put them in a break room, or
they could put them up, and then they could have
right their little cubicle.
Yep, you could have a coloring contest for it, and you give away a Starbucks card. Actually, when the book came out, somebody in Austria bought it, and she did it with her teachers. She did it with a room full of teachers. She actually sent me a picture of it because teachers, you don't think of students as customers, but they are. People have a choice of where to send their kids to school. So she was doing this with teachers so that they could just get recharged. And one of the best things is that what the thought starters in this really help you own how good you already are, and help you solve problems where, like one of them is when you need to say no, how do you do that well? Maybe the answer is you don't use the word no, you say, well, here's what I can do. So you start coming up with some creative solutions while you're de-stressing. So I've got, I have a document, a website page you could go to and download an activity instruction book. So you can find all different kinds of ways, but it makes it
on MarilynSuttle.com?
Yeah, MarilynSuttle.com/color their world.
Oh, so do you click on the book icon if you go into your shopping page?
You could, or you could do that, or it's in the book too. When you get it, it gives you the link and you can download it, because that way you have lots of ideas. And whether it's a gift at a conference, I know there's a conference coming up where everybody's going to get one of these in the gift bag. So that's
really?
Call centers can be very stressful because people don't call in until they're really upset. So call center employees can doodle and it restores their faith and like, oh, I'm feeling awful right now because I was just screamed at for 2 hours. But now I'm remembering all the times I had a happy customer who said that nice thing to me and the biggest compliment I got. And so it's a restorative type of activity to help raise resilience.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And I could, as you're talking about that, I was thinking about how you know how they have the paint and wine.
All right.
I was like, and the neighborhood book club. I was like, you could easily do that. It's like that book would be perfect for that. It's like you just are on that one page and it's like you're just coloring it in and you're talking about stuff.
Absolutely. And then you can get really
and that alone is going to relieve all that stress just in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you really need time to decompress. Work can be very stressful. It's a lot of responsibility. And if you're a business owner, especially, what happens in your company, you are responsible for everybody's paychecks. You're responsible for those people's livelihoods.
Exactly.
And it can get really tough. So you take a coloring book and just give yourself a little bit of a break and breathe and restore yourself.
I am getting the link out because they're wanting the link.
Okay. So MarilynSuttle.com /
Gabby says, give me the link. So I have to do that. So here we're going to get that. We'll get Gabby out of there. We're going to put that up there. There we go.
Oh, okay.
MarilynSuttle.com.
Excellent. And then you need the / color their world, though, if you want to go right to it. There's a little video.
I think if you go, if I remember right, there's like a shopping section. So that takes you to the books and takes you to the course. There's shopping tab on there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
or Amazon. Right to Amazon.
On Amazon too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You do it that way.
Their world on Amazon. Or just punch in Marilyn Suttle and it probably takes you all 3 books.
Yep. You'll see them all.
Yeah. And you obviously don't have a Kindle version of that one.
Not of that one.
How do you color on a Kindle?
Someday they're going to have the coloring ability on the tablet, and then you can print it off. It'll be really cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're there yet. So.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure it's coming. We just gave somebody $1 million idea.
Oh, I bet that's going to be
already. Yeah.
Some futurist is like, okay, that's on the docket for next month.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. So you can so if someone wants to hire you, they're like, oh my gosh, I love Marilyn. Mm-hmm. Do you do one-on-one coaching?
I do some of that. I do more group coaching, team coaching. I do some of the one-on-one, but mainly, I'm up there doing a keynote. I'm doing an executive training group, or I'm doing a full day training for a whole group of people that.
So you do more corporate aspects and companies.
Right. And then, of course, there's the customer service model creations where I'm going in and doing some consulting on, and we'll do the whole spiel. We'll do the focus groups and we'll do the surveys and we'll gather that feedback and figure out, especially like, let's look at a hotel, for example, or a restaurant. You get a lot of customer feedback. And there's sometimes your ability to bring customers in have to do with your ratings. You get a 5-star rating in the book, people are more likely to come. So let's take a look at what does it take to get that 5-star rating? How are you doing in each one of these areas? Let's break up your groups and help go deep on how to do that, the mindset, the skill set, the celebration, because if you don't celebrate successes, people lose interest in being successful. It's amazing what food will do. Bringing in cupcakes or pizza can really be a lift, or an ice cream sundae day and have everybody come in, share ideas and celebrate. It's important. So that type of work. So, multifaceted. And then the keynotes. That's one of my favorite things to do is to come in and do a keynote to fire things off and get people ready for the work ahead.
You come in and do the Tony Robbins, right? Make them walk on fire.
We all have those different styles. I'm not a Tony Robbins, but
I'm not either.
Funny. I'm laughing.
Yeah.
Funny things.
But it's important to come in there and it's like you get them on a grand scale, you get them motivated, you get them, and then they buy into you. They're getting the buy-in a little bit there.
So I want them to feel, people don't make change unless they feel. They feel the pain of staying the same, and they feel the possibility, the pleasure of having things different and better and being appreciated and making a difference for people. I think we all want meaning in our life. And it's a beautiful thing when you could take somebody getting a minimum wage who might be on this job temporarily, I'm going to be here for a year, and then having them actually care and then really pride themselves on making that senior citizen feel like $1 million when they come through. When that happens, there's no better feeling. It's a really great thing.
Yeah. And you mentioned like restaurants, and it's amazing how at a restaurant, it really boils down to two things. It boils down to timing and communication.
Oh, yeah.
And then between that, I mean, if you have great communication between the kitchen staff and the servers, and you have great timing on that, and everybody gets, we're all thinking on the same level, we're all communicating on the same level. What happens with the servers are happy because they're getting bigger tips.
Right.
In the United States, if you're watching this in Europe, it's a whole different other system.
Yeah.
But in the United States, that's, it's all about the tips on that.
And then along with that comes the technology, because we need systems in place that support us. Not being afraid to use technology and having systems and processes. And that starts to get boring and people go, systems and process. But that is such good stuff, because that's really what helps you do those things. Have the timing right. Get everybody on the same page. And, as we see the Internet of Things and we see AI, artificial intelligence infiltrated into every aspect, into our watches, our refrigerators, everything, the need for communication to be stronger than ever is so vital, because the need for one department to be able to communicate what's happening with another and get all that information cross-departmentally, and move swiftly, back to your time point. It all matters.
Yeah.
But you got to have that communication. You have
to learn and be open to different forms of communication.
Right.
It goes back to the gentleman you were talking about and the millennial and all that. It's like, it really is a communication breakdown of that. Because like you said, I'm 54 years old. So when I pick up my smartphone, my iPhone, and I'm thinking in the history wise, I'm thinking way back of, I had a dial phone. I had a touch-tone phone. Then I had a tethered phone. And then we got the innovation of this long, coily tethered, cord. You
Been
could
to-
take around in and sit in the closet. I could talk to my girlfriend inside the closet so nobody could know. And then, so we went through all that, and that gets me to the phone today.
Mhm.
Otherwise, someone that's 20, they just dealt with this.
Right.
They don't even
And
know about the flip-up phone. They're like, what is that thing?
yeah. What do
Didn't
you,
even
they
do
laugh.
that. So
Or even if you have an AOL account, they're like, "Oh my God, you're old."
yeah. Yeah.
Right?
What is AOL? AOL. They're trying. Yeah.
But I've adapted to that. It's like I get upset when people leave me voicemails. It's like, please just text me. It's so much faster. So I've
And
adapted.
use Messenger.
Right.
I'm right there.
It does make things. And so this is where the older generation needs to adapt. We need to grow with it, with the times, because it does. And there's got to be tolerance all the way around. Tolerance and compassion. It's important.
Yeah. I wrote about that in one of my emails, is that email is now snail mail.
Right. It's true.
I mean, so to email me, it's like, that's like the slowest way for me to respond.
Right.
If you use Messenger right now, I can respond the fastest. Text is next in line, and then email is way down there.
Right. And but then even with that though, that adds an element of pressure to our lives because we're so accessible.
Yeah.
And it's all the more reason why we need to play. We need downtime. We need ways of de-stressing. Self-care is not selfish. It's preparation for action, really. So this is really a time where if you're not putting self-care as part of what you do, it's going to be hard to succeed long term.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll live just as long as everyone else. You just won't be able to walk and talk and have fun and dance and all that good stuff.
Right. I was talking to a friend who has a jacuzzi tub and she hasn't used it in 2 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got to take time for yourself.
Yeah.
Put it on the calendar. Put it on the calendar to read a book. Put it on the calendar. Sometimes if you ink it, you'll do it,
Right.
And ink it. We don't ink it anymore. We put it in our Google Calendar.
I put it in my Google Calendar and it pops up.
Right, exactly.
15 minutes before you have to go run.
Right. Damn, there you go. That's great.
But at least then I go, oh yeah, I gotta go run. Okay.
It's interesting too. There's a new book on happiness out, which kind of puts positive psychology on its head. I think that both are very valid, but this particular book talks about your environment for happiness and well-being, whether in the workplace or at home, and how important creating the environment is for your well-being. And do you have an environment that supports collaboration at work, or do you have an environment that allows conversation at home? Because face-to-face really does make a difference. We do so much virtually, do so much in an impersonal type situation, but to really ground ourselves, we need that interaction.
Yeah, very much so. How many hugs a day?
Oh, is it 12 hugs?
12 hugs for growth.
12 hugs. Yep. And I don't know the breakdowns. Do you know them?
4?
4 hugs minimum.
You took the live class. You should know this.
12. It's 12 hugs a day.
What is it? 4 for just survival?
For maintenance. And if you have to hug yourself, you can hug yourself.
Just hug yourself. Everybody give yourself a big hug. There you go.
Right.
I love me.
Well, it's that physical touch, physical touch. And there's that book, The 5 Love Languages, which they also have the 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace by Chapman does that book. That physical touch is one of the love languages, but so is acknowledgement, one-on-one time, or acts of service is mine. It's like if somebody helps me do the dishes, they're my best friend. It's like that really, I like that. So we're all different.
At work, if you have a one copy machine or something or a printer, it's like, sort those out instead of just throwing them on top. Why don't you go find that person and give it to them?
It's funny now, you're bringing back a memory for me. I used to work at a psychiatrist's office when I was in high school, and it was boring. There was no computers at that time. I'm that old.
There was nothing. We both are.
So I literally sharpened all the pencils in the drawer. So there was nothing else to do. Well, the person who works on the other shift could not stop raving about that, because she's like, oh my gosh, all the pencils were sharpened. That was so thoughtful. Well, honestly, I didn't do it to be thoughtful. It was just, I was bored. But it really did make me think, wow, if we do that little extra kindness, that little extra, if your hands are free, what can you do to help somebody with them? That it changes the complexion of the workplace. And
you never know how it's going to be perceived. Dave Ramsey always told a story about a lemon. And it's like, if every person might have a different use for that lemon. One person might use the peel for zest. One person might want it. But if you hold up a lemon, just say who wants this lemon? It's like, you never know. But if you had three people that one wanted the juice and one wanted the rind, and then one wanted, the pulp for something to put in a cake or a pie or something, it's like you could have that one lemon could be the use for three different people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you never know what that person their perception is. So, have those talks, communicate.
Well, and when you say perception, that's one of the keys from my book. The first book is customer's perception matters more than the truth. And their perception might be that you're not doing a good job, when the fact is you have just put $50 million into your company to do this great job. But the person that answered the phone that day, had just a little snip in her voice that, changed the perception. So it's just so important that everybody facing a customer, everybody, we play off each other. We have our reactions to each other, and kindness can go a long way. And that really starts up here, in your mindset, how you think about other people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
Good conversation.
So cool. Yeah. So if they want to get a hold of you, we're coming up to, it's been an hour.
Wow, that went fast.
Where did that time go?
Awesome.
Oh, good though. So if people want to work with you or get your products, MarilynSuttle.com.
Absolutely. And they could call 248-348-1023 to set up an appointment if they want to have a consult or talk about their needs. I'm always happy to do a short call. And
you'll work with all levels. So if someone has, you can direct them at least with either your online course. If they're small, so all levels or just more corporate or what?
Yeah, if they have an event coming up, if it's an association event, I do keynotes. Corporations, I work with your leadership team. Other companies, I work with your staff. Whether we do coaching, we do training, and we do consulting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just give you a call or go on the website and contact you through there. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Marilyn.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for having me on. This was fun.
Well, thanks for coming on, and this is great. We'll have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So everyone else, have a great evening. Thank you, and those watching in the replay, you should have been here live. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.